All right, it is 5:30. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. Damn, y'all are making me work early. All right, 5:30. We'll go through our agenda, and then we have one addition we need to discuss, and then we'll get our council meeting started at 6. First on the agenda is approval of minutes. There were no changes. Any questions? All right, public hearings, resolution 25010, approved CCI development agreement and investment.
Yeah, that'll be, I guess, that's a public hearing. That's just be shared at that time unless y'all have some questions or something. Lee's here to lay our bond.
All right, any questions? Resolution 25011, approve extension of a special use permit for Tillman Infrastructure to construct a wireless telecommunication facility at Runnymede Avenue Southwest.
Good afternoon, President, Mayor, Council. David Andrews with CMS. I apologize for not being at the work session last week. This is the second extension for the proposed tower at Runnymede in the Beltline. They're still going through the historical process. They hope to have that all completed and the tower built out by June of this year. That is their new goal. So they're asking for it to be extended another 180 days so they can get that completed.
All right, any questions? All right, resolution 25012, approve the proposal with Q Wright McAnally for professional services for project management, civil engineering design for cell 17.
No change.
Any questions? Resolution 25013, approved lease agreement for DYS facilities and boxing arena.
Is that just, okay, go ahead. This is good.
It's just a lease for our boxing facility.
Same place we've had it.
Same place. A little increase in the lease.
Lease. All right, any questions? Thanks, Shaman. Resolution 25014, approve athletic complex parking lot construction, lowest bid. No changes. Any questions? Resolution 25015, accept National Parks Services grant for additional funding for Carnegie Library Historical Structures report.
No changes unless.
Any questions? Resolution 25016, declare equipment no longer needed by various departments surplus and authorize disposal.
No change.
Any questions? Resolution 25017, approve bond release and refund to Decatur Urban Ventures LLC for completion of public improvements at McGee Square Townhomes.
No changes.
Any questions? All right, resolution 25018, and was this the addition, Herman?
That's right.
Award bid number 24040 to Pickett Industries for closure of landfill cells 2-11 being the lowest responsible bidder.
Yes, sir. I've got some printed in case someone didn't get it in time if you need that. But this is to be awarded or recommended for award. I've provided for you a recommendation from Pew Wright McAnally as well as the bid tab. We're recommending awarding this to Pickett Industries.
All right, any questions? All right. We will get started at 6 o'clock.
96 to
Call
what?
meeting to order. Alan Stover, I believe, will lead us in our invitation into prayer.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, God, as we come to you today, we just thank you for your many blessings. God, I just pray that you'd be with us as we go into this meeting, God. God, I pray that you give us the wisdom, God, to make the decisions you'd have us to make. God, we thank you so much for this city. God, I pray that you just be with us. God, lead, guide, and direct us. Let us be what you'd have us to be. In Jesus Christ's holy name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Here. Here.
Jackson. McMaster.
Here. Right, first item would be agenda-related public comments. Mr. Pariki had signed in for those.
According to the minutes on 9 January, you had a special called council meeting for the Green Report, correct?
Yes.
On the 13th of January, during the work session, you said that redactions were needed. And then, Mr. McMasters, you said that changes would be made in accordance with the report. Do we have any idea what changes will be made in accordance with the report?
Yes.
Could you elaborate, please?
You want me to go into this now since it's not on the agenda? Yeah, so there were mentions about the I-8 process. That entire process was changed back in September. As far as some of the communication stuff, that's being worked on with the city. We actually, this body authorized the comms position. I think there were 57 applicants, and that's been parsed down to about 30. HR is working on bringing that position to be interviewed. What else was it? The Citizens Advisory Board, having that changed, that falls on us to get that changed as well. And I think, we should do that just as soon as humanly possible. I don't know how quick we can move on taking nominations or permanent, if we have to change an ordinance or anything like that in order to get that into effect, but.
Well, you would have to establish it
We'd have to
because it's not
establish the ordinance,
a
so.
council.
I'm fine with doing that. I don't set the agenda, but I think we should do that as soon as humanly possible.
You mentioned a pattern of inappropriate conduct and cultural issues would warrant changes. Is that correct?
A pattern of inappropriate conduct that warrants changes. You mean the 0.2%, the 0.17%?
I mean, what was put in the Green Report, how it applies to making appropriate changes for our police department.
Yeah, I think I just went over.
You went over three things that were in the chief's plan back in May, which we had not heard of anything until this moment, which you're assuming is going to solve this problem. Is that correct?
I think it's going to go a long way on.
Okay, I disagree. Mr. Ladner, you said there will have to be discussions on change. When will those happen?
We'll see.
We will. When will hearings be placed on the agenda to develop these discussions?
I don't plan on placing any hearings.
Of course not. So we will stay ourselves with heads in the sand until such time as you all leave office.
No, we have these discussions often with folks that are respectful and,
How am I being disrespectful to you, Jacob?
no, I have them with people that are respectful and we have those good conversations, so we'll
Okay.
continue to do that.
All right. Waste, fraud, and abuse, brought that up earlier. I think I sent you a copy of what I received back from City Hall. Your thoughts? Freedom of Information Act request. It was basically waste, fraud, and abuse of that system.
I don't have an opinion on that because I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about.
I'm talking about a request for a specific check in the amount of over $2,000 for a drone purchase from Autel Industries, I believe it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Several process errors. Last week's work session, Mr. Pinion was allowed a 5-minute and 12-second soliloquy without even signing in for public comment. Alabama's League of Municipalities, September 2022 revision gives a sample ordinance as a guideline for council procedures. The order of business shall include reports of standing committees like the Planning Commission, like the Personnel Board, reports of special committees like the Police Advisory Council, Mr. McMasters, you so thoughtfully brought up, and reports of officers. That's where the chief can come up here and give us his updates on what's going on. Has not happened in the last year since I've been attending meetings here now. What will it take for council to decide these guidelines ought to be covering council meetings?
I'm not sure.
Mr. Mayor, are you sure of anything? I didn't think so. Thank you.
All right, we'll move into our agenda. We will take on approval of minutes C separately, so A, B, and D will be done together. So motion by Mr. McMaster. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? This is for A, B, and D. I'm sorry, A, B, and D. Any discussion? Roll call.
Latches.
Aye.
Pike. Jackson. McMaster.
Aye.
A, B, and D are approved 4-0, and C. So moved by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Latches.
Aye.
Pike. Jackson. McMaster.
Aye.
C is approved 3-0 with one abstention. Next, we'll move into public hearings. Resolution 25010, approved CCI development agreement and investment.
Yeah, Lee Birchall and CCI group are here, and they can share the generally what's proposed. This is a public hearing, so
And I'll open that.
Yes.
If you just want to give us kind of high level, and then we'll open the public hearing after that.
Sure. I'm Lee Birchall. I've been representing the city negotiating the development agreement with CCI, and what CCI has proposed is about a $50 million capital investment in the city, creating 24 new jobs, 55 total jobs. The city is going to partner with them to rebate a portion of the sales tax from their capital construction. And I know the reception to this idea has been very, very positive throughout the community. And with us tonight from CCI, just to give a brief description of their practice and plans, are their CFO, Nicholas Sharp, and Dr. Marshall Screeder.
First, I'd like to thank you for partnering with us on this. We've been providing state-of-the-art cancer care in Prater since 2006, and we hope to be here for decades yet to come. This is an expansion that will meet our demands on population growth. We are going to have of course, some economic benefits to the city, not only the construction jobs, but we'll be employing more physicians and more staff. We see 2,600 new patients a year in Decatur, and this will allow expansion for years to come. It'll be state-of-the-art. We also will have a community center for education, for counseling, and for support groups. Thank you.
Y'all good? All right, thanks. All right, this is a public hearing. We'll open the public hearing now for anyone that would like to speak on this item.
Does the Planning Commission play a role in determining if this action in this hearing is in the best interest of the city?
The Planning Commission.
I don't think this property was
If it's properly zoned, then it's, and they meet the other requirements, so that's.
It's already zoned appropriately.
Okay, well, the reason I ask is because it was not seen in any of the minutes that I've been looking at for the Planning Commission for at least the last year. And why wouldn't they have an interest in helping the city to determine which businesses go where?
Because it's already zoned. It already has that zoning, so they can come.
Have they already bought the land?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I postscript, so this, I hope this will help. When they design it and they have to look at ingress, egress, and all the other things, the planning commission will review that.
Site plan.
Okay,
Site plan, in other words.
Okay, so right now, we have two facilities that are going to be consolidated, two facilities right near the Decatur Hospital right now. They're going to be consolidated, and actually, they're only a third of a mile away from each other, according to Google. They're going to be consolidated and built onto a bigger part of 6th Street, correct, or 6th Avenue?
6th Avenue, yeah.
And 6th Avenue is the major supply route coming in and out of Decatur. Okay, so that would impact, obviously, I would think, traffic.
Yes, sir, that's why they'll look at it, it's a site plan.
Okay, so are we giving approval now without a site plan to go ahead and get this built?
We are giving approval that the city is if we approve it, we're still up for a vote, is very supportive of this project. Thinks it's a very good project, a great company. They have locations all over North Alabama. I think it's our responsibility to be good partners in projects like this when somebody's investing up to $50 million. So what we would be approving right now is just our development agreement. The site plan, they'll have to meet any requirements that AlDOT has that comes to.
So basically, all we're saying is we're okay with giving a $250,000 stipend to allow this to occur. Okay. When was the last time, because as part of the Planning Commission, I would think they're going to look at this eventually. Does anybody know when the last time Mr. Pepper was actually on the Planning Commission? Does anybody know that?
I can answer it later. I'll find out.
Yeah, it's been over a year, just so you know.
Sorry. Did you say 50 or 30 million?
50,000 square feet, $30 million.
50 million, construction equipment.
It's 50.
Is it 50?
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else like to speak on this item? All right, seeing no one here to speak, we'll consider the public hearing closed. Do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Pike, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to say thank you to CCI, Lee, Freedom, all you guys, the city, for the effort put into this. I think this is going on a great property. They could use the investment, but I think the city can in general. So we appreciate what you guys are willing to do, willing to work with us. Thank you.
You know, our citizens said this has been a hot topic around here ever since the word got out, and in a very positive way. And anytime you can provide better health care for your residents and even those in the region, it's a great thing. So we certainly appreciate the investment that you're making in the city.
Thanks, Mayor. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
Aye. Jackson.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Resolution 25010 is approved 4-0. Thanks, guys. All right, move to resolutions. Resolution 25011, approve extension of a special use permit for Tillman Infrastructure to construct a wireless telecommunications facility at Runnymede.
Good afternoon, President, Council, Mayor. David Andrews with CMS. This request for an extension is for the proposed AT&T tower that's going to be built by Tillman Infrastructure at Runnymede in the Beltline. They're still tied up with the local and state historical commissions. They think that they will have that completed and they could have the site built out by June of this year. They're asking for the second 180-day extension to be able to complete that and get it built out.
Thanks, David. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMasters. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye. Jackson. McMasters.
Aye.
Resolution 25011 is approved 4-0. Resolution 25012, approve the proposal with P. Wright McAnally for professional services for project management and engineering design for cell 17.
Wanda Tyler, Landfill and Recycling. This is a proposal from P. Wright McAnally for the design of our new municipal solid waste cell, which would be cell 17. They will take care of everything from the design, the bid process, the permitting with ADEM. And this proposal is $337,800. We ask for your approval.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMasters, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
Jackson. McMasters.
Aye.
Resolution
Thank you.
25012 approved 4-0. Resolution 25013 approved lease agreement for DYS facilities and boxing arena.
Good afternoon, council. This is just to ask for approval for our boxing facility for lease renewal.
Motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pike. Second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Pike. Jackson. McMaster.
Aye.
Resolution 25013 is approved 4-0. Resolution 25014 approved athletic complex parking lot construction lowest bid.
Good evening, Jeremy Sherrill with the procurement. This is the construction of the parking lot at the ongoing project there, the athletic complex. This is also part of the MOU agreement with the school. Bid opening was held January 16, 3 responses, and we recommend Rogers Group as the lowest responsible bidder.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Pike, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? So this is actually part of what we agreed to in our agreement with the schools. This is actually the last piece of it, okay. Which we paved the road behind the stadium, did something for it.
There was one little block there that we had.
Yeah. Okay.
Just for the record, this is something I'm not supporting from the very beginning, so I won't support it tonight.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Jackson. McMaster.
Aye.
Resolution 25014 is approved 3-1. Resolution 25015, accept National Park Services grant for additional funding for Carnegie Library Historical Structures.
Yes, the National Park has awarded the city a grant to do the historic structures report for the Carnegie Library. This is just some additional funds that they had that they are granting to the city, so we're just asking that you approve this.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pike.
Second.
Second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call.
Blackman.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Resolution 25015 is approved 4-0.
Thank you.
Resolution 25016, declare equipment no longer needed by various departments surplus and authorize.
Yes, this includes 6 vehicles that are not in use, some playground equipment being removed from Flint Park, and another pretty extensive list of computers and computer accessories from our IS department.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Blackman.
Aye.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Resolution 25016 approved 4-0. Resolution 25017 approved bond release and refund to Decatur Urban Ventures LLC for completion of public improvements at the East Square Townhome.
Yeah, good evening, council. The public improvements have been made. The project has been done over a year now, and this is just released for the bond.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pike, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Resolution 25017 is approved 4-0. Resolution 25018, award bid number 24040 to Pickett Industries for closure of landfill cells 2 through 11, being the lowest responsible bidder.
Yes, this is going to be funded with the 3M settlement fund. The bid opening was held December 12 at 3 p.m. There were 6 respondents, and we recommend, along with Pewright McAnally, Pickett Industries as the lowest responsible bidder.
So moved.
Second.
Pike, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Resolution 25018 is approved 4-0. I know Jason had some things he wanted to ask.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jason Lake, Parks and Recreation. I had to write it down so I could remember everything. So there's going to be a community meeting to update the master plan for Flint Park. That meeting will be February 11th and February 13th in the auditorium at the Fire Training Center. We've had several conversations with people in that community already. And one of the things that led us to is we know that the current master plan out there is not really what that community wants. So this is the opportunity to have input, and we've already gotten some input, and we've done a questionnaire that we put online also that we got really good information back on. But we do ask for everybody's support coming out and giving us good information for that. Second item is, so at Wilson Morgan, at Venture Park, as most of everybody here is familiar with, is that park was a community built park. Is all the stuff that's there are things that our community got together and put together for the youth to use, and they've been able to use it for a long time. But one of the things that we found out that people are very passionate about are there were bricks done. So if you donated money or whatever, you got a brick. So one of the things that when we found out how important that was to everybody, we went through and we're trying to get those bricks out of the little area that they're at. So here's the part of that I hope everybody understands. Some of those bricks were broken already. Some of them were already cracked and things like that. What we did is we went through and saw cut the mortar joints on it so we could get them out and not break any more and do as good as we could to get them out of there so people can have their bricks if they want. So we were able to get almost all the bricks out. So most of the bricks we have, and what we did is we put them on pallets and they're keeping them at maintenance right now. So, and we're going to put this information on social media too, but just so everybody's aware, if you want your brick, if you'll dial 256-341-4760, that's the number to Park and Rec Maintenance. And if you'll give them your name, we'll go through and find your brick and tell you to come pick it up. So that's something. And the ones that are broke, we apologize up front, but we did the best we could do. I promise you, the folks that did that, we all have family members, pretty much the ones that were doing it. I had several people on there that are kin that had them, and one of them were broken. I know I'm going to hear about that. But we did the best we can do. So one more. I'm sorry, one more. One more is we plan on putting the rates on the next agenda. So one of the things that I want to mention, because I know there's been a lot of conversation about rates when we put it on the first time, which was good. That's what we wanted. But these rates are for tennis, pickleball, golf, and the cemetery. So all of these items were discussed with people that are involved with those sports or whatever that is. We did not just pick out rates. We brought people in for conversations, had conversations with them. And we didn't say, here's what we want. We were more looking at, okay, what makes sense for everybody. So we also took it to our Park and Rec Board. Park and Rec Board approved what we took them. We'll also have included, when we bring the rates, similar businesses in our area that do similar things, so we can contrast and compare those. But one of the things I want to stress bringing this is what we felt like after many hours and many conversations of where we felt like will be a good place for these rates based on doing business going forward. But it doesn't mean that's what we're prepared to have the conversation. It don't have to be what because it's not about wants, it's about what's the best thing for the community. So when we bring these, look, I'm totally prepared to have conversations about them, and they may change from what we bring them. I'm fine with that, but we have to have the conversation. This is how it started. So that's it.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, we'll move into our public comments part of the meeting. Need a minute, Billy. He said go ahead. We will do our regular 3 minutes with 1 minute to wrap up. You'll hear the buzzer and wrap up after that. All right. All right, first on the, remember please to address the council, not city employees. This is your opportunity to address us. First on the list was Byron Nichols.
Hey, man, appreciate it. I looked at the report, and I wonder, are we can talk about that tonight, the review?
You have a question? I think it was discussed last week, too.
Oh, well, as I read through it, I thought about staffing and didn't know the condition, didn't know if you were able to discuss the staffing levels and how prepared the city is to go forward with community policing.
Yeah. Do you want to discuss number? I know we're down.
The staffing levels, we're currently budgeted for 140. Right now, we've got less than 110. It's something we've tried to address in many ways over the last 4 years. It's been a challenge, many different reasons for that, but that's where we are.
It's a similar challenge that you would find in almost every police department.
Yeah. I understand it. And the last thing, and you already kind of reacted to it tonight, is in this meeting here, in public comments and how people are making comments and all that stuff, it seems to me like we could improve here that would possibly boost the morale of the city or potentially even the police department, so that the city is not constantly hearing. It's not like you have to hear negative or interrogation all the time, but you could hear, like if I want to make a comment about staffing, I just make the comment about staffing and not look to a council member and say, what was the such and such and such? You ain't, oh, what are you doing? You know, that right there, that doesn't foster a healthy environment in the city, in my opinion. So if there were a way to be, and the last time I was here, I talked about holding it to 3 minutes. I may be pretty close, but it would be, I think it would be great for the city because more people would feel invited to come down and take part in discussions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Eccles. Next is Christy Love.
Good evening. We gather here today because justice demands our voice. Notice I said voice, not voices, because we are one voice. And we stand in the name of truth, accountability, and the unwavering belief that no life should be taken unjustly, especially by those sworn to serve and protect. Steve Perkins should be here today. He should be living, breathing, loving, and thriving. Instead, his life was stolen in an act of violence that should never have happened. And let's not forget, in an act that the police tried to cover up. Steve's family is grieving, his community is hurting, and we are left asking the question, when will justice be more than a word? Let's be clear, this is not just about one tragic incident. This is about a pattern, a system, and a culture within Decatur Police Department that has gone unchecked for far too long. It is about a department that has lost the trust of the very people it is supposed to serve. And if we are truly committed to justice, then we must demand more than empty words and performative gestures. The third-party review of the Decatur Police Department has been completed. The facts are out. The truth is clear. Now the only question that remains is, what will be done about it? A review means nothing if it is not followed by real accountability. The words on those pages mean nothing if they do not lead to concrete change. If we allow this report to sit on a shelf collecting dust while the same patterns of misconduct continue, then we are no better off than before. The Decatur Police Department cannot be allowed to fix itself. History has shown us what happens when institutions are left to police their own wrongdoing. Excuses are made, evidence disappears, and the people are left without justice. We demand that every recommendation from the third-party review be implemented, not in a year, not in 5 years, but right now. We demand an overhaul of policies that allow officers to act with impunity. We demand transparency from leadership because the people of Decatur deserve to know exactly what is being done to prevent another tragedy like Steve Perkins. We demand justice, not excuses. We need leadership that loves everyone. Real leadership does not look away when injustice happens. Real leadership does not silence victims, protect wrongdoing, or prioritize power over people, personal relationships over the greater good. We need leaders who love, respect, and value every person in this community, no matter their race, their background, or socioeconomic status. Justice cannot be selective. If you are a leader in Decatur, If you sit in a position of power, you must ask yourself, do you truly care about every life in this city? Because if you do, you will act. You will fight for policies that protect, not harm. You will ensure accountability, not corruption. And if you refuse to do that, then you are unfit to lead. Leadership is not about what you say, it is about what you allow. And what we have seen Todd Pinion is a failure of leadership at the highest level. We do not need more leaders who protect broken systems. We do not need more officials who turn a blind eye to injustice. We need accountability. And that accountability starts with firing Todd Pinion. This is not a request, this is a demand. If Decatur wants to prove that justice is not just a word, then let it begin here. Let it begin with real accountability, real reform, and real leadership that stands for every single person in this community. We will not be silent, we will not back down, and we will not stop fighting until justice is served. For Steve Perkins and for every person who has ever suffered in the hands of a system that refuses to change. Justice must come, and it must come now. Justice for Steve Perkins. Thank you.
Okay, so there was a councilman that stated that he felt the review was a waste of taxpayer dollars. Do you all feel the same? No? Okay. Was Tori able to tell you about any officers who possibly needed training?
I'm not going to get into what's in our executive session, but I think the review speaks for itself. There was nothing in there There was nothing in the report that you didn't get to that was redacted that said anything about a specific officer.
So of the many redactions that we saw, none of them were speaking about specific officers?
There were obviously specific officers involved, but none of them, I don't believe specific officers were even named in that way. It just said an officer or something.
Okay, do you know if any of the officers got reprimanded for not entering the complaints? You're not sure? Okay. I want to touch on something about Mr. Marks, and so I'm not directing it to him.
I just want to caution anything that's at all derogatory.
No, not at all.
I just, since you brought it up, I'm just giving a general warning. It's just not going to be tolerated.
Okay, understood. So a lawyer's fiduciary duty to a client means that they must always act in the client's best interest, putting the client's needs above their own, and fully disclose any potential conflicts of interest that could impact their representation. Essentially, the lawyer owes a high level of loyalty and trust to their client. Is it not evident that Mr. Morris completely breached that by showing Todd the report so that he could, in his words, get ahead of it?
Not at all, no.
You care to elaborate?
He's not done anything since I've known him that I thought was in any way unethical or we've disagreed on things before, but I would put him at the highest level of character of many people that I know.
Okay, so seeing that the taxpayers of Decatur are the ones who paid for the review was against the police department. Todd is the chief of the police department. Okay, Todd being the chief. So him saying that he reviewed it with him so that he could get ahead of the release, I mean...
I'll speak to that. I mean, that changed nothing about what the public knew or didn't know. I guess I just don't know what he's going to have a chance to react either way. I just personally didn't have an issue with that.
Okay. I saw that Todd also did another interview with WAFF, and he spoke about not considering himself a liar. So whether we call it telling it a story or stretching the truth or a fib, the fact is that he's not an honest man, because even since then, he's continued to tell lies. The most recent lie, he stated that IA Pro was a new system. Chief Nate Allen was the one who introduced the system. And that was while Todd was over internal affairs. So again, speaking on him as a chief, once again, he's a liar. Thank you.
So the city has technically had the investigative report from Green for a month now. We know for certain it was here on January 9th and have actually heard it was here before that, but regardless, it's been here for right at a month. And it was something we knew was coming. It wasn't like it was a surprise. We asked for it 6 months ago, and we knew it was going to be delivered January 1st. So since the report has been delivered, this is what we've seen in our city. Numerous shootings, some resulting in death, numerous attacks on people getting beat at random, fatal house and car fires. I'm guessing that we still have a serial rapist on the loose. That was announced to us in December, and there's been no update since and no arrest that I'm aware of, so I'm guessing he's still waiting on his next victim. After 16 months of non-speaking, our police chief has stood up and spoke twice now and lied both times. Videos are still coming out of our police going rogue on citizens. Our mayor still refuses to listen to us, but yet sips on a bottle at night and posts inappropriate things on social media. That's where our city is at currently, a month after the report came out, 16 months after Steve's murder. The first 6 months we were here speaking, we were begging for changes to be made in the city. Then we felt we were moving in a positive direction with the Green report, so we waited patiently for 6 months because we knew what the report was going to say. And somehow we still had trust that when that report came out, everyone would do the right thing. I believe that we said early on is what we're seeing now. Until the city makes a turn to do what is right for the citizens, we are going to see the city go down further and further. It's like I'm seeing it week by week. New reports, some at fault of people, and yet some just horrible tragedies. Nonetheless, this city is falling apart and becoming a very unsafe place to live. That means eventually it will affect one of your families if it continues on this path. There is no reason this report has been out for a month and there has not been one change announced to us. I expected more, but maybe I shouldn't have, but I'm highly disappointed. You wanted to see it in black and white on paper, and now we have. So why are we still not seeing changes? We don't need plans for change. We need immediate changes, and we need them now. Justice for Steve Perkins.
Michelle, anyone named Michelle? Oh, Michelle.
Hey, so my anxiety this week has been up to here, so it's like taking a lot to even come up to the podium. The stuff that's going on in Decatur isn't helping that. But I wanted to read something, and I'm getting to it, and then see if you guys can tell me what this means. And if someone's already mentioned it, I apologize. I just got in. And so this is from the Decatur mayor, and it sounds like a riddle to me. So a lot of times that us as I call us as family are asking for a justice, but I don't know, but we're misinterpreted. So there is a huge spot on my plate for a biscuit of something. I opted to save a few calories. This isn't easy, but necessary. Pastor Jerry Baker. So he added a letter? Mm-hmm. Okay. So Jerry Baker taught me that my messages must touch all audiences. He said a message should be like a windshield wiper, covering all life stages. So thankfully for the leadership and pastoral wisdom, Sherry knew I didn't need the calories associated with the biscuit based on the contents of the plate. Folks, let's settle down and allow the court to do its job. The city has and is doing its job. Less a nice biscuit in the void of my plate.
That's the way he wrote it.
And literally, I'm reading it verbatim. And so I'm being sarcastic too, but that's embarrassing. And that's the mayor of Decatur who I just didn't get here in time. I wanted to ask him if there was like a behind the scenes meaning behind this, because what are we supposed to do with that?
I wouldn't read too much into it.
I mean, there's not a lot. Who wanted the biscuit? Well, we want justice. So that's really all I have.
Tommy.
How's everybody?
Good.
Last week, we talked a little bit about, I brought up the question of, did you guys know anything about the redactions? Everyone, you wasn't here, Jacob, but everyone said that you guys did not know. Someone brought up earlier that, that our guy, Herman, he, worked with the chief or whatnot, and they came up with these redactions. Well, he met with the chief on the 9th. So he met with him. He met with him about the report, and he said that he met with him several times. And all of a sudden, we came up with the redactions. And my question to the council last week, and it will be this week as well, if you guys didn't agree, if you ordered the report and you didn't agree or didn't have knowledge of the redactions. Now, you say that you trust Herman. Herman's been the city lawyer for 40 years. Listen, I'm not going to go on Herman's character, right? But I can go on his judgment. And his judgment of going out and redacting the report that you guys did not agree that was so bad because it did not carry any ongoing cases. So what was redacted was not an ongoing case. It was not anything that, it didn't even give a name. It just gave a circumstance or an event. And we still redacted it. That's not fair for you guys to defend a report that's redacted. But it's not fair for us because we asked for, transparency months ago of our police department. So I would ask you guys to unredact that report for the transparency. And also, I want to bring up this. We brought it up months ago. If we're not going to get rid of Chief Pinion, we need to put someone over him. We need to you guys need to consider having a commissioner that will bring oversight to the chief, to help train him, to help get our department into tip-top shape. We've done it, we're doing it for directors. Director do something, we're quick to double demote, fire guys for a complaint. We're quick to demote or bring oversight for directors. We need to consider that for our police department so that we can bring transparency, but also that we can bring, clarity to that position and bring, honor back to that position again. Thank you.
Rodney here. Maggie Porter.
I want to touch on something that was said last Monday also. Councilman Jackson stated that when he read the Green Report, that it was so horrible that he had to stop. It was that bad. So why is Todd getting up here saying that it's nothing bad, my cops are so good and all that? Can somebody explain to me why is he going around lying? Because I know you seen it. You said, did you not state that you had to stop and get up and walk out? It was so bad. Did you not state that? Did you guys see what he saw?
We're in the same meeting.
Yeah.
So you didn't see that.
You want me to answer? Do you want me to answer?
All of y'all need to answer because I know all of you seen it. So
I haven't paused. I think I said it in the paper. What I saw was very, very, very concerning. I didn't walk out, I don't think, but there's no question what I want to say this, those guys the GRT did a really good job of doing a thorough report. And what they showed to kind of defend maybe the general observations that were in the report, to me, were very impactful and concerning. So I would agree.
Pike.
I was pretty open last week about my thoughts. I think I said in the paper, if you didn't see issues with what was in the report, I would find that very troubling. I stand by that.
McMasters.
Yeah, there was some that were concerning, absolutely.
Okay, and you're the liaison, correct? So what's the next step for you?
Well, the next step for me is with the conversations I've had, some of the things that have been already implemented, I think are a good thing. I think a lot of that falls on us as far as the advisory positions go and the communications. So that's, I mentioned that earlier.
Are we going to have a public hearing?
We're having one right now.
So this is all we're going to get?
That'll be an ongoing discussion, but I don't have any plans to do. We do this every Monday. So I've not only every Monday, I think a lot of you in here know that I've spent many hours meeting with you and answering questions every time you've ever asked me to do it, and I'm always open to do that. I don't know how I can do better than that.
So if the law was broken by this, we see laws that were broken in this report. I guess I should ask the liaison, what's our step for breaking the laws to these officers doing this to the citizens of Decatur? What's the step they need to take here in the city for the citizens, for the officers that broke the law against these citizens, please?
So I would say, follow the process that's in place. Report it to IA, it'll be investigated, and that.
But we don't have the names. It's redacted, so if they feel like they needed to get, if they feel like they fell in the report, they need to go and file charges. Is that correct?
Who gets it? Because they didn't get it last time.
Yeah, and then are the reports going to go to Mr. Marks, or is it going to DeLeon? Is it going back to Internal Affairs, where we fall in the hands of nobody listening to us again?
Obviously, one of the concerns we had, or I had with the report, was that those reports weren't being, it didn't seem like they were being investigated appropriately. And so we do need, and I think you mentioned some of it tonight, to make sure that those changes are in place for those, one of which was ridiculous in that our policy, internal policy, was that we would notify the person, the resident who made the complaint, within 365 days. That's totally not good, right? So they are changing that to either 30 or 60 days, I believe. So a citizen will know that their complaint has been investigated and what the result would be. But having to wait a year is not appropriate at all. So there are some changes that will make that process better.
And that does fall under Detective DeLeon. They need to get in contact with him, or do we need to get in touch?
No, DeLeon, through IA, yes.
Thank you.
So how did they make changes from the last one?
Hold on, ma'am.
They got to roll away.
Elena, I'll find out your question of what, when we had those that have been filed in the last year, so are those going through that process where everyone will be notified of the result? I'll follow up on that.
Okay, can I ask you one more question?
gotta sign
Wait, he
in soon.
retired. I wasn't here, I'm sorry, I was working. He retired.
Quick.
So with those claims going against him, y'all bring those
They
back
will
up?
be, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't want to go over what happened with me and Renshaw and Selby De Leon when I filed reports on Renshaw due to harassment, Facebook harassment, when I got arrested and he posted about my bond revocation off of the Phil McGroin account. We don't want to go back over that, do we? Because Selby De Leon sent me the email letting me know that Joe Renshaw got to retire after all those complaints got filed. So after what this report said tells me none of my complaints went through a system.
That's a valid question, and I'll follow up on that and call you this week.
Okay. I feel like you should address.
Yeah, I have to ask them, I don't know.
Okay. Well, as a council, what's your next move after this report?
Answer all the questions.
I stated my opinion last week. I don't necessarily need to reiterate, but I think you guys got the point last week on my opinion of the chief's performance and my concerns moving forward. But also, like I said last week, right now he is our chief. There's been a lot of talk lately. I've heard a lot of we're looking at, we're planning to. So from the council, I think that's up to us to do what we can to ensure that he's actually implementing changes. And what I think is very key is to support him and the department in those changes.
And there are some things this body can control with the community advisory board, the comms thing. So those are two things that I don't know how quickly we can implement.
So the Citizen Advisory Board isn't appointed by the chief?
Hey, guys.
I think Chief Kenyon's made one appointment. Everybody else that's on it now was already on it. He's made one. But at the recommendation of Green and even the chief was to make that a council-appointed board instead of the way it's always been done.
Okay. So building off of what Pike said, talking about going back to plans, in this report, it says Chief Pinion acknowledged that there were plans to be more community policing oriented prior to the September 2023 incident. So what does that tell you being in February of 2025? If there were plans to have more community policing, we still have protesters showing up every day. We had an officer-involved shooting, but there were concepts of a plan, what does that tell you about your chief?
I would go back to what I said a minute ago, and that is we need to see action. I'm not going to repeat everything I did last week because I said it probably too long. But not only do we need to see action, we need to see communication of what actions are being taken, and I think that's something that the public deserves from the chief.
Okay, well, let me go through something that has nothing to do with the public because it is obvious to the public that a majority of you up here could care less. Leadership conflicts found in the 5th point of the Green Research Technology report, talking about how many line-level officers and first-line supervisors who were interviewed expressed that there was significant power held by some command staff members that overshadowed the authority of the chief of police. So no leadership there. It was the opinion of some personnel that Chief Pinion did not lead the DPD. Several participants stated that some personnel are reprimanded and disciplined for infractions and others are not. So what does that tell you? Because last week I came up here and kept saying it over, and I'm going to keep doing it, I guess, until there's something done in between the lines. That's corruption. That is them protecting the good old boys and not the ones that are coming in and saying, hey, we shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be arresting protesters just for saying a cuss word on the sidewalk. That's what's happening here. That is corruption. That is what you all are protecting that leader back there. I'm almost done.
No, not back there. He's not here anymore.
Some officers expressed that policies were enforced based on who you were and who you were friends with. Is that how you want your police department to be in Decatur? If our own police department is having such inner conflict, how can they go out and be good police officers for your community? That's a serious question that every single one of you should be asking yourself, rather than looking at us and expecting us to come up with executive sessions to talk about this report. You should have all been ready for this report to come back and have a plan of what you needed to do going forward. Justice for Steve Perkins.
I wrote my stuff today again. McMasters, how long have you been police liaison?
Since we took office.
Since you took office. So were you in touch with the police department before you took office? Okay, I just want to read something. Chief Nate Allen said 3 years ago, the force needed training in use of force, de-escalation processes, and unbiased training, which tells me when he was in office, there were concerns. So when Todd took over, did the department not initiate training in the concerned areas?
I had no idea he had those.
See what I'm saying? And you're the liaison?
He doesn't.
You just said that you were...
Everything.
I don't know everything either,
so
but...
For the 500th time, what a liaison does is it's...
You said nothing. I think the last couple meetings you said you don't do anything.
It's a bridge between the department and council.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Chief Allen never called and said, well, hey, I think we need to operate this way. What do you think? So when Chief Allen was here and we looked at our pay rate and it was the lowest in North Alabama, it was like, hey, do you think we might could get...
I'm not talking about the pay. I'm talking about the misconduct in the department that he addressed publicly. That's what I'm speaking on. Okay, well, it doesn't appear that they did, because that's why we're where we are today. It's gotten out of control. A friend of mine was arrested by DPD in 2023 with serious allegations, but no charges were filed because it was a false report. However, now he has to sit 3 years in prison due to the violation for being arrested. To me, seeing this report and knowing that there are probably more other people like my friend, only thing that tells me is that we just scratched the surface regarding misconduct within the department. I can only imagine how bad the corruption is with DPD, and I can only imagine how many wrongful arrests have taken place. I don't know what it's going to take for you all to see that there's a real problem within the police department, and it starts at the top. There has been a problem with the police department since before Todd took office, and he's done absolutely nothing to improve the concerns Chief Allen had 3 years ago. So we've lost 2 innocent lives in 1 month due to the neglect of needed training by the officers. And here we are 16 months later begging you all to see the math ain't mathin'. It should be a scary thought for you all to think how careless the department has been over the last 3 years to make the necessary changes, but I guess it'll take one of yours to be taken recklessly by the department for you to do something about it. Y'all redacted the report as if people weren't going to expose what was covered up. Another video just surfaced with DPD and their cultural behavior. Compton and his clan entered a home with all intent, used their badges as a way to be bullies and thugs, yet once again. These people were charged with obstruction of governmental operations and disorderly conduct in their own home. With that being said, you all forget that the people that were interviewed are within the community. So you can run, but you can't hide. God will expose the evil. He's done it all my life, and he's going to continue to do it. It's time for Todd to go. There's absolutely nothing I've seen that makes him good for the department. Todd keeps saying that we want perfect, but perfect doesn't even exist. What we demand is honesty and transparency. The way it looks now, we're just being fed lie after lie with no action behind it. We can't help but form an opinion on the obvious, and if you aren't going to do anything about it, then it's clear to me that you all are part of the team circling the wagon. Justice for Steve Perkins.
So I'm guessing since the report came out, you won't find this hard to believe. But how do you guys feel driving around Decatur at night with this current state of police department? How do you feel? Do y'all feel safe? Do y'all feel?
I do, yeah.
Well, people that looks like me in my community, we don't, because I can speak from my own experience. I have a permanent mugshot on the internet because the police department does not know the procedures and policies. And I also lost up to about $500 just because I was taken into custody for no reason. and over made-up warrants that were dismissed in court. Do y'all have some kind of reimbursement situation? Because my car was also towed during this incident, and it wasn't supposed to be.
Herman, I believe that would be a civil, I'm not sure.
What was his question? I'm sorry, what was your question?
Do you have a reimbursement program to people that were falsely arrested for warrants that were basically made up?
Warrants that were made up.
Yes.
Answer to your question, you can file something with our department, and we'll have it reviewed.
But as you have heard, everything that we filed with the department does not go through.
Not legal department, not the police department.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We can, I mean, I'll stick around after if you need any help on what to do there.
And like, is this something that I can do about this mugshot situation? Because like in the future, if someone wants to just Google my name, I have a mugshot that comes up, and I've never been in any kind of legal troubles or anything like that.
Defamation.
We can, I'll try to help you, point you in the right direction.
Okay.
I don't know that.
So do we have any like steps of how we're going to make sure that these officers know their policies and procedures when they're pulling people over?
There's obviously got to be training. That was, I think, somebody, I can't remember who it was, maybe Sharonda or Sarah, talked about needing the things that were in the court to be implemented, one of which was training. We need to understand what that is, which would include what you're describing, which is better knowledge of what those laws are.
So isn't that the same thing that Pena said that he was going to do before the Green Report, and we're still waiting on?
Possibly, but we've got to hear from him what those things are and try. You know, at the end of the day, and I know you guys know this, but to make a change, the chief is going to take 4 votes.
4 votes.
4 votes. So we are a legislative body, as Mr. Faruqi likes to remind me.
Okay.
Which means we vote as a body. Not one of us can come and make demand or make any change on our own. We have to vote. That's how we make decisions. That's how we change things. That's how we do things. And in this case, it takes a supermajority.
Okay.
And so then it's somebody else mentioned earlier, maybe Tommy or somebody, is if you can't do it that way, is there an alternative to try to help move us forward? And we have to explore those options.
Okay. Is there any plan to change the current state of your citizens that drive around at night throughout Decatur? Because I don't feel safe. Even when I'm in the right, I have my tag, insurance, everything is all good, I still was taken into custody, and I'm pretty sure other people feel the exact same way. I don't feel comfortable driving through downtown during their shift change because there's so many of them. I don't feel comfortable driving down the Beltline and it's 3 of them. I don't feel comfortable. Is there any kind of steps to make sure that us feel comfortable in our own city? I've been here my whole life, 27 years, and I feel terrified. I feel more comfortable in Huntsville driving than down here.
All I can say to that is I hear you, and I understand that I don't have that same concern. And that's one thing about the world that I hate. So I appreciate that, but yes, if there are things we can do to help with that, I'm committed to do that.
All right, Justice for Steve.
One of the things that you mentioned was about training, and I'm here to help you. This is the list of trainings that used to be implemented for Decatur Police Department, which totaled 40 hours a year of training. Todd likes to say, in one of his many twists of the truth, that my officers welcome the opportunity for training. He said that multiple times, and in the same breath, took this down to 13 hours. So I don't know how he can say that when this was already in place before him, and he chose to take it down to 13. So I can only imagine all the things on this training list that they're no longer being trained on. And which of these 20-something hours
27 hours that he no longer does is he going to bring back to help this police department? It's only concerning and it only matters in the context of his continued ability or rationale to lie before he tells the truth. That's what's concerning. He does what my grandmother used to say is he'll tell a lie when the truth will do. He does that quite often. When he stood here last week and told a lie when the truth will do. When he put Herman on the spot and started his tirade against you all with Herman can attest to this for me. And so he kind of put him in the spot where he had to lie for him. We cannot believe anything he says because his default is to lie and to exaggerate and move the lines. So I don't know how we're supposed to deal with that, and I don't know why it doesn't bother anybody else that I can expect him to lie before I can expect him to tell the truth. We talked about earlier, I think you mentioned, Jacob, about changing the regulation where in the IA reports that it was 365 days to complete a report. And Todd was very excited in his interview to discuss that, to say, oh no, I'm changing that. That was incorrect, never should have been. Understand that what Todd also fails to say, and that's his other problem, he doesn't give you the whole story or the entire truth, even when he chooses to try to tell the truth. That his 365 days was the time frame for that, and the purpose for that was to prevent IA from deleting videos. So if we say it's 365 days for a report, then that means those videos have to stay in place for an entire year. So you don't have the situation, which is what we have in this report, of IA deleting videos before there's an opportunity to look into them.
Can I speak there, Paul?
Sure.
I want to be clear about the deletion comment, and I've talked with Tori about that to just clarify it. They want to make sure there's an understanding if there was not intentional deleting of videos, it was mischaracterizations. And what I can say to that personally is some of the body cam situations that we watched, they would say, this officer mischaracterized in their report and that video was deleted, but every other officer on the scene characterized it correctly and we were able to. So they did not see any, in their opinion, intentional deleting. Like I'm not.
Yeah, I don't, and it may not have been intentional deleting, but I do believe. Right, but I do believe that the miscategorizing of those reports was intentional.
Could be, but they didn't.
Because if you miscategorize them and you categorize them as something less than what it is, and you don't, and the severity of it is not recognized, then that means you can delete it.
That's why I made the point that that would be my first thought too, but because we were able to see, to me, every officer would have done that. But maybe not, I don't know, but these are very hypothetical situations. So,
because the report said that there were still some videos they were not able to see.
But there were other officers on scene that were characterized correctly.
I don't think that's the way it was portrayed in the report, but I get it. I'll go with you. One of the other things McMaster said earlier that we have about 100, less than 110 officers. It's closer to 100 still on the force. But he also said that crime was skyrocketing under the previous administration and all these things were happening. The last administration left, there were at least 130 officers when that last administration left. So Todd inherited 130.
I will check.
Okay, check. Will inherit at least 130 officers. So in the 4 years. Okay. So in the 4 years that he's been on the force, he's lost almost 40 officers. So would that not be, that's under his leadership. He's lost 40 officers. So does that not alarm anybody?
We've never been fully staffed. We have fully staffed now.
Okay, well, he still lost 30 because if you were at 130 and you're at 100 now, that basic math says 30.
I'm concerned about the staff.
Okay, check that for me. And
No,
we'll,
I'm agreeing with you. Your end question is, are you concerned about staffing and where we've ended up? Yes.
Mhm.
We've tried to help fix that multiple ways, as Mr. McMaster said earlier, but we've got to continue to do that.
okay. Do we want to, you clarified something earlier from the report. Is there any clarifications that you would like to make about how the redactions came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to wrap up after I get that.
Okay.
The redactions were made by legal. They made those recommendations of what needed to be redacted. GRT actually, based on they didn't decide what to redact or not. GRT meaning Green Research, but physically blacked out the report. But they did not. They didn't just pick and choose. They said, okay, legal to redact these things, and they blacked those things out. I will tell you, they agreed with the assessment that legal had on the redactions in general.
Okay. But I want you to be clear, that is not at all the interpretation that was given to us
I heard
on last
that.
week.
I'm not sure exactly what was said, but the fact is, legal decided what was to be redacted. Green had the report, blacked those things out like you saw in your redacted report. And then my conversation with Green was that they generally agreed with the redactions. But they physically redacted, yes.
They physically
did GRT.
redacted to correct?
There was I want to be clear on this, and
Okay.
I don't want it to be a gotcha. Okay, we're friends.
We are. Okay. That's why I gave you an
There
opportunity.
was a discussion on whether this is irrelevant to the main point, but whether those sections should just be taken out of the report, which would have thrown out all the table of contents and messed it up, or you leave it in and block it out. And
Okay.
So their GRT's recommendation was leave it in and block it out, and that's how we got to where we were.
Okay.
And they did that.
Because our legal of 40 years has never dealt with redactions versus deletions before?
Well, and maybe somebody else did it, but I think we got to the end we were looking for, and it's no different than it would have been anyway.
Okay.
It's made public.
Okay. And I think but that again goes to the reason why the public doesn't trust
Understood.
what's being told to us and what's being said.
What I just told you is 100% fact.
Okay. One last thing, and I'll let you go. When Todd also likes to tout that there was no discrimination found in this report, I think it's also important to note that this was not the scope of the report. So he would not find it because it was not what the report was based on.
Culture, but yeah, there was no specific.
So yeah, the scope of the work that Tori was assigned to do did not encompass whether or not the police department was discriminating against individuals. So it doesn't mean that it wasn't necessarily something that wasn't seen. He was not commissioned to do that. So what I need him to stop doing is running around on this PR tour saying that when, of course it didn't, because it wasn't the purpose of the report.
Clear though, Cherie, I mean, we need to deal in the facts. I asked point blank if there is an issue with systemic racism that they saw, and I was told no. So that's a very small sample size, and I get your point about that, but I want to be very clear. I asked that, y'all were in the room. I asked it as clear as that, and they said we did not see your officers engaging.
I think you need to broaden. I think we need to broaden
It was a small 300
right,
hours of-
but that's not what the report was about, and so he wouldn't see that. So I would like for him to try telling the truth about what's actually in the report and what he's going to do about it, rather than trying to get us to look at some shiny object over here that does not exist.
Thank you. Mike.
Did you all see my audience asked me to stand back, but did you all see the video that was posted online the other day? I know it was several of them, but the one where Malachi ran into a home.
Yes.
Did you see that? Okay, so what was your thoughts?
Wasn't pretty, but a lot of times arrests aren't pretty. I mean, without knowing the full context and everything. I mean, I'm just being honest. And, you know, I have no idea what led up to that. I just don't.
A loud music call, that's a letter.
Hold on.
From my point of view, totally inappropriate. I think that that is the exact type of behavior that does the opposite of community policing, where if it's truly, we need you to turn your music down, and say, can you turn your music down? We had a complaint and move on. I just think that type of thing does way more damage than any good. So completely inappropriate and disheartening to see.
It was completely inappropriate.
Guys, come on.
I think the first thing that we have to pay attention to is that they shouldn't have been in the house. They should not have been in the house. It never should have escalated to that point. There was no real attempt to de-escalate anything, but again, there shouldn't have been a de-escalation period because they should not have been in the house. And if they had not been in the house, we never would have gotten to the point of what we saw.
Can't add much more to that, but I would say not seeing an attempt to de-escalate was concerning. I definitely think the opportunity was there. From what I heard of the conversations, I do think it was possible to de-escalate that. You know, one of my concerns, and in the report it talks about DC and OGO, is you know, not always can you arrest somebody. It's you know, should you under the circumstances, or can you take another tactic to de-escalate a situation and maybe have a different outcome? I think that was possible in that video.
Okay, so everybody knows how passionate I am with the Steve Perkins movement, right? Okay, so a lot of those people in that video were my family members, and they did not let me see this video. I was asleep and they just posted it on my page because they wanted me to stay focused on the mission that we're on. But that was hurtful, and I think that that officer needs to be reprimanded. I think that something needs to be done with Malachi because he's on several videos. And that's what we call about not being safe in our community. McMaster, you keep on saying about a community advisory board. I don't think a community advisory board needs to be appointed until we appoint a new chief. I think we all know that it's going to take 4 votes to get a new chief. We deserve a new chief because all that we've seen in this report and all that we've seen online, it's time for a fresh start for Decatur. Yes. We're exhausted, McMasters. Yes. We're tired, and we need something different. You should want something different instead of standing with Todd. He's gotten up there on every press conference and told a lie. All he do is lie, lie, lie. I mean, I'm tired. Y'all are spinning me through. We got to stop this, man, and we got to come together because we know y'all got to vote together in a unit, and we have to remove Todd Pennington. I don't want oversight over him. It's time for him to go home. Yeah. When you're destroying our community like that, Mr. Clarence is a deacon in his church, upstanding man, and you go in his house and do all that you did in his house, and you tore his house up. That brought me back to the way that we policed in the 90s. That's the way we used to police. That's why I don't like police officers. That's why I'm terrified of police officers, because of what happened to me in the 90s. When we go back to those street hawk days, then it's time to change and do something different. No, I don't want a weak police force, but I do want them to consider the citizens that they serve. And I'm telling you, it's time for the removal of Todd Pinion, and it's time for you all to come together and figure out what's next. McMasters, we don't need you to hold on to Todd. I mean, we all have friends, but this is beyond friendship. This is beyond the safety of Decatur, and I'm wrapping it up. And I'm tired, McMasters, of you all not looking out for our community. And I'm talking about, now I'm going to move on to that little cheap park you put in Cedar Lake. That was a slap in my family's face. I don't know who you talked to about that, but I think that we should have had a better park over there. We shouldn't have had a park with no gravels in it. And I'm not going down this campaign trail, but the people of Cedar Lake deserve better than that, man. The people of Cedar Lake deserve, because really we should be on Wilson Morgan Park, to be honest with you, because that's when my family first came to in 1888.
Tell it.
I just had a few questions that I just wanted to get clarity on. We always hear legal. Who's a part of legal?
Herman leads the department.
But is it just him?
There are other employees.
Can you tell me how many? I don't need names.
I think total Herman in the legal department's 4.
There's a total of 4,
Yeah.
3 attorneys and a legal assistant.
Okay, thank you.
One of those is a full-time prosecutor, those attorneys.
Okay, thank you. In the report, it stated that in 2023, 31 complaints were turned in. 2024, 21 were turned in. Was it discussed with you all how many were supposed to be turned in and filed?
I think that was clarified on how many total complaints there were, but
So what was the total complaints? This is, anyone can answer.
something in 2024.
What her question is, was there,
The delta between what?
were we told how many were supposed to have been?
I don't think they know that.
No.
Question, no.
They told us how many in the various places were.
Okay. I wanted to clarify. Last week, Mr. Jackson, you let us know that out of the 6 videos you all watched, 4 were in your district.
That's correct.
Do you know how many were in yours? The 2 left?
There's one that was where some districts, I think one was in mine.
1, so that's 5.
There was one on the line, I think it was between us.
Do you know, Mr. Jackson, or?
Some of them sort of.
I know one was in mine.
Okay, so that's 5.
There was one in District 4.
1 in District 4.
4 in my district.
4 in your district.
And the one, we couldn't determine if it was in.
It was me or Hunter, actually. It was either 5 or 4, wasn't it?
I thought it was between you 2 or
3. The very last one was in mine.
Well, then if the very last one was in yours, then that makes 6.
Okay, so where did you get 2 and 3 from last week? Because you said it was 2 and 3 in your district.
I think there was one.
I thought there was one, I mean, if.
No, you said 2 and 3 in your district.
It is.
Okay, but
In all clarity, for all clarity's sake.
Thank you.
When they came to my district, I called them out.
Yeah.
I gave the street address as to where they were, and so I was able to call them out of my district.
There's an area where 3 districts are in one neighborhood.
Okay.
And that makes it very difficult to figure out exactly which house. One side of the street is one district, one side of the street is the other. And one of these videos was in.
My only point is that someone up here needs to stop just throwing out numbers if they don't have the facts. That one. I looked online and I noticed that the last police department annual report was from 2019. Could someone maybe on this side of the room find out why we haven't had an updated annual report with the police department? Because the one from 2019 answers a lot of questions. It shows you the officers, their shifts, retired officers. It gives a lot of information regarding the police department in the city. So is that something someone can ask Todd about, why there isn't an updated annual report on the police department? Okay, thank you. IA Pro, from what I researched, and in the report states it has an early detection where it can monitor officers' offenses, like if they're not doing something proper. Was it discussed, or can you all just verify if there were officers that had multiple complaints that showed behavior issues?
Mr. Ladner, I'm not.
I'll say this.
Thank you.
Okay.
iPro was not utilized effectively enough that warning system could be used appropriately. So
okay.
If there were officers with multiple complaints, it would have been manually bound, whereas the system would have alerted somebody.
So if the system had early detection where it could have gave us a forewarning on what officers are doing, but if the complaints are not being properly put in,
That's what I'm saying.
we don't know if said officer Malachi or any other officers, Bailey Marquette and so on, Renshaw, we don't know if they had complaints where they could have been reprimanded for because they weren't entered, but it led to people being murdered, assaulted, and falsely arrested. I feel like that's a lawsuit of some sort. Just throwing it out there.
We also paid for that system and we weren't utilizing it.
Absolutely. Thank you. I just find that very negligent. It could have saved a lot of families heartbreak. To get clarification, if Green Research and Technology, and I know you stated one time that they will possibly be open to coming to council if they were getting paid for it.
Yeah.
But if they weren't getting paid for it and they agreed to it, would that be something that you all would consider?
I've talked with Tori and Sean about that. They would just reiterate that basically they would go, here's what the report was. They're not going to go outside that. It's
Right.
said they had a narrow scope, or I guess I would not say narrow. I think it's a wide scope, but a narrow dive.
Okay.
But they could not discuss anything that wasn't just there.
Okay. McMasters, you're sure to defend and let us know everything Todd is implementing, but the community doesn't know. So can you get a list of everything he's making changes for, since you're so sure of it? Can you have that ready by next council?
Hey, can I?
I'll give you more time, even the one after that, since you're so sure he's doing it. Can you get a list of the things he's implementing? Thank you.
Can I interrupt? I'm not defensive. If he wants to get that information, he should go for it. Ultimately,
Absolutely.
that communication needs to come from the chief.
Absolutely.
I just want
That's
to
right.
clarify.
That's right.
So I'm not saying you should be. You could ask that of all of us, really. But I think the communication needs to come from.
I'm asking him because he's not. It's not on the. It's not on the basis of liaison. It's on the basis of them being friends, where he stated they are friends. How long have y'all been friends? And I'm done with this. I'm just. How long? How long? Oh, okay.
So just kind of going back into last week and bringing this forward, there were a lot of videos that were released with discrepancies with the Decatur Police Department. I know I tagged you guys in some, but I tagged Carlton in a lot of them because I know he watches my Facebook. He asked me about a grief post, but he didn't ask me about my grief, which was kind of weird. But there was also a report of the police being in East Acres asking young teenagers if they had warrants. And I don't think that's something that would happen in Point Mallard. I don't think that would happen in Way Through the Woods. And it's just another level in this system that we're trying to show you that is racist and oppresses us. Like, everyone wants to say that Decatur doesn't have a racist police department, but of the videos that came out this past week, there would never be one of a white family where you come into their house because there's loud music and they assault you in your own home and then arrest you. That's something that will never happen. Agree? Agree? Have you seen it? Because, we've been asking people to put that type of information up. So I need you guys to take the blinders off. I remember when you talk about all the meetings, when we first met Jacob, I asked you to read about implicit bias. You remember that? Did you pick up any books on that?
I have read, I don't know if they were specifically about implicit bias. I don't know that you recommended a book specifically.
Yeah, I gave you the general category.
Yeah, you didn't give me a specific book, but I've read things like Ta-Nehisi Coates that talk about what it's like that I don't understand. So yeah, I do read those things.
Okay, so
everything in there, but I'm curious.
I'm pretty sure you wouldn't. But we could dialogue about that. We could dialogue about that. But
you can feel, I love to read. Send me any book you'd like.
oh, trust, I got you.
Yep.
But this is a systemic issue that the council has a blinder on. Like these type of things, and y'all say this all the time. Well, I don't experience that. I don't know what it's like to, almost have a heart attack when a police officer's behind you. I don't know what it's like for you to go into your community and be accosted by the police. And we're sitting here telling you there's actual video evidence and a report that also states these things happen, with video that shows you primarily people of African American descent, descendants of slavery, being accosted by the police. Even though that's a small sample size, we're doing extrapolation here because this is a pie. We had a sample size of random videos, and of those 6 random videos, 4 of them came from District 1. So I know that, it's only 0.02%, but that 0.02% are my family and friends, just like Mike was saying.
Evening. I want to say. All right. So, Carlton, I'll ask you this. What is the proper way to file a complaint? I know we get the form from off the wall in the office. We fill it out, and from there, where does it go?
Can I admit I have no idea? I mean, I've never filed a complaint, so I would assume you get the form off the wall, you fill it out, and you take it into OPS.
As the liaison who serves between the people and the police,
I'm sorry, I'm just being honest, I have no idea how to file a complaint. Herman, is that right?
and this is alarming.
I'm sorry, what now?
File a complaint on the police department, you get the form, you fill it out, you turn it into OPS, or you turn it into
Yes.
front desk, or?
Turn it into, so does the police department turn it into?
Turn it into the police department. So down at the desk. So on the second page of this complaint form, where it says form received by, so the officer at the desk is supposed to sign that?
Somebody should acknowledge,
should
whoever
sign that.
receives it should acknowledge
And
that.
then once they get it to their supervisor, does their supervisor sign it as well?
Once the supervisor has reviewed it, they would sign it also.
Okay, so because I went on my own, myself and Clay went to file a report, a complaint on Thursday, and on Thursday I was turned away with my report because I was told that I had to go upstairs and take it to Lieutenant DeLeon in Internal Affairs, and he had to sign for it, and in order for it to be received. So I was then told on Friday, when I took the report up to Internal Affairs, that Lieutenant DeLeon was not in. So Irene told me that she doesn't receive them. So I asked for a supervisor, and Lieutenant Barrington came and he accepted it and he signed for it. So tonight I went back to the desk just before council just to see if I was given misinformation on Thursday. I think that it's just either the officers don't know, just as Carlton does not know, but it's almost insane to me because I know for a fact that myself and probably 20 other people came here and filed complaints after Third Friday. And I know what the process was then, and we just turned them in. And we still have copies of all of them, but Herman's on record saying that he never received them because they were never filed. And then we found out through the report about IA Pro and how they were never entered. Now, this is a public safety issue that not just affects the Perkins supporters, but the entire city. Everyone should be alarmed by that. Every last one of us are at risk here. And then again, I was filing a complaint because I myself was inside of a store. And an officer approached me and told me that I was parked in he came inside, beeline straight from the door directly to me.
told me that I was parked in a handicap, which I had a placard for. Come to find out the space wasn't a handicap space, it's on private property. However, he walked in the store, addressed me, and then proceeds to turn on his body camera after he's already interacting with me. So I go outside, I show him the placard. He says, oh, well, the other officer says, well, I think there's just been a big misunderstanding. To me, it felt like a target. So when I spoke with Barrington, who gave me a call back today, just before council, to discuss this report, he told me, he said, well, the officer was calm when he approached you, and he said, but you backed away from him. I backed away from him because he beelined straight from the door directly to me. That's instant fear, panic on my behalf, because if there's a parking infraction outside, why are you coming into the store to chastise me about why I'm parked in this space? So again, you know, filing a report, even though I filed the complaint, and talking to him today, I was walked down off of the complaint as though it wasn't a complaint, as though I didn't have a right to complain because the officer was nice to me. Now, I just want to take you, just hold just a moment. If we go back to September the 29th, Steve was in his house minding his business. I was in the store shopping, minding my business. A single interaction with an overzealous police officer could result in my death. We know that this could happen because this happened with Jaden. It happened with Steve. And apparently, it's still happening. And Todd is still our chief, and he is still not down here to answer any questions. So I would like to just say, you know, he's not in the room, so when you say that he's implementing changes, what changes?
Right, we got to wrap up, but let me address a couple of things.
Yeah.
I think, and I've heard 2 or 3 things tonight. I've heard several things that made me think. But 2 are that one was changes with IA happened in September, which is after GRT pointed out the issues in IA. So I just find that a little bit disingenuous that all these changes were made several months ago, but they were only made after they were pointed out to Chief Binion specifically. The other is the 365-day to 60-day. Well, we heard, you guys remember back in the spring of 2024, a lot of people coming in that are saying, I'm filing reports, and we don't feel like stuff's filtering through the process, and we're listening to that. I just find it very hard to believe that nobody at that time, from then until September, thought, maybe we ought to look at this process. Exactly. There seems to be a lot of questions. We don't really have a good process. It's in different places. We're not utilizing this system. That is concerning. I mean, it isn't even proactive. That would have still been reactive, but at least it would have been reacting in a timely manner. So I just don't buy that. Changes were made in September. They were only made because they were pointed out by the third-party review. So anyway, but we gotta.
But again, I just want to say on record that today the process is still unclear.
Yes. That was my point.
Yeah.
Catrella Perkins.
Carlton, you over there writing a lot. What you doing, playing tic-tac-toe? Because I know you're not taking notes. Because every week we come in here and ask you a question and you don't know. But I'm up here because my daughter, Steve Perkins' daughter, wrote something and she wanted me to come up here and read it. I feel like you're just not here anymore and that the police knew that they were wrong for what they did. Everybody's missing you. I feel like I just can't do nothing without you. And I had a dream you were here with me. Okay, so that's what she wrote and she wanted me to share it. But I heard y'all say that we needed 4 votes to get rid of Todd, right?
You need director, but yes.
Yeah. So do we not have 4, or who is against getting rid of Todd? I mean, I just wanted it on record.
Don't count this against you. I want you to understand there would be a formal hearing, and then the council would decide that.
I'm just asking a question. Yeah.
All I do is clarify. I didn't mean to. I just wanted you to know.
What he's saying, Centrella, is I can't just next week put it on the agenda.
Well, I get that.
Because
But
it's personnel.
right, I get that. But what I'm asking is that who up here doesn't want Todd gone? Out of the four.
I think you've been clear on.
So why should he stay?
Right now, crime is at the lowest it's been.
No, what has
I just want to be clear. If we're going to ask him a question, I think we got to let him.
I don't want to hear that. I want to know what has Todd done that makes you think he's the man for the job still today. Don't tell me about no statistics. No, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear what he's done.
Statistics are important.
Uh-uh.
I mean, to me, and they may not be to anybody else in here. So more drugs have been taken off the streets in the last 2.5 to 3 years than in a long time. Those are facts. Right now, crime rate is down.
Well, they already explained that it's down across. It's not just Decatur.
I'm comparing year over year in Decatur. I'm not taking FBI stats. I'm comparing year over year in Decatur. And that to me is important.
So that's it?
That to me is important.
So what, okay, let me ask this. What has he done since September 29th?
Not.
Huh?
So there has been, he should have done more.
I'm asking you, what has he done since September 29th? Not what he should have. What has he done? Exactly, but you still want to sit up and say that you don't think he should go because that's your friend.
I'm not saying because he's my
Well, that's the only reason why you want him to keep his job, because y'all friends.
I'm looking at the stats. That's what I'm
Listen, I'm not studying. The only stat I'm looking at is Billy Jackson for mayor.
What about the statistic that 2 people died and 2 people?
I want to respond to some of that, if you don't mind. I think for me, the tough part is crime stats are incredibly important. I think everybody agrees with that. We want low crime. I think when we went through that process, we want bad guys gone. But if you look at the chief's job description, I looked at it last week, and about 70% of it is this, and I'm just going to read it verbatim. This is under essential duties and responsibilities. In addition to having impeccable, let me finish. In addition to having impeccable verbal communication and listening skills, the police chief must possess exceptional knowledge regarding media relations and a demonstrated proven record of accomplishment in dealing with media resources with high-profile and complex investigations of police matters. The police chief must have the ability and availability to speak frequently at public forums, conduct press conferences and briefings, attend meetings and public gatherings, and serve on committees, boards, and agencies that are related to promoting crime prevention, relational policing, and evidence-based criminal justice practices. So that's over half of essential duties and responsibilities. My problem is, and I said this in the newspaper, the question is, can Chief Pinion lead us through this? And when you look at the police chief, that is different than, this is no slight to any city employee, but it's different than the CFO and the Parks and Rec director and the Community Development director, and even I would say in some ways the fire chief, although you have a lot of these same responsibilities. A police chief in a community is right there with the mayor of what we've got to have in the public. That's who people look to when there are issues, and we're going through those issues for the last 16 months. And so if I say, can Chief Pinion, and a lot of people say, I'm scattered, I'm sorry, but a lot of people say he has dealt a bad hand, and I can take that. But we were dealt a hand. Like you don't just get to say, I was dealt a bad hand. You got to react to it. You got to still lead through those hard times. Heck, we were all dealt a bad hand too, and we sit up here, whether you like us or not, and we sit up here every Monday and we answer questions, and we're out there and we're trying to help, whether you like our answers or not. And so if I say, can he be the guy to lead us through this? And if my answer is yes, I got to be able to say why.
That's right. That's right.
And I just can't. I don't have any evidence of the last 16 months that makes me believe that. Now, in a regular old everything's great and fine period of time, that it's I've had this conversation. It's like the quarterback that can beat all the bad teams, right? Like we got to have the quarterback that can beat the really good teams. And it's hard and tense, and we need leadership, and we're struggling, but we got to win. We got to, this is tough. It's hard. And I just haven't seen that evidence, and I hate that. I don't. Y'all, a lot of you said it. I know sometimes that thought changes. I don't believe he's a bad person. But we know that's not what's in the job description, right? So I'm really, it's a challenge for me that I just haven't seen it. This report on its face, if Chief Pinion for the last 16 months had grabbed the bull by the horns in every instance, let me give you an example. After Third Friday, we know that was a debacle, the gag order hearing. What I would expect, what I would have done as a leader is go, heck, I did have a press conference right after the gag order hearing. But as I would go, hey, Monday morning, this happened on Friday, both events. I'm deeply concerned about what happened on Third Friday. I'm deeply concerned about the gag order hearing. That is not our department. That is not how we behave. I do not condone it. And we are going to look into it. Well, we're going to do something about this. We're going to hold people accountable. And in his mind, or everybody's mind, maybe that happened behind the scenes. It can't. It has to happen out in front, communicating with people. And if you don't do that, a void gets filled. And whether it's right, and whether it's false, whether it's true, a lot of things that were said were true. There were a lot of things that weren't. But it just fills that void when nobody is kind of taking the bull by the horns. And I especially would say, it was every police officer I know in the Decatur Police Department personally is a great person. I don't know all of them, but they are, like I told y'all, one of the ones you guys know, Volin takes his vacation time to go volunteer in Zambia, Africa for weeks at a time and is doing great work. And every one of these guys that I know, I've sat down and gotten to know, are great guys. But I just almost wish Chief even could have gone out on a limb for those guys and gone, we have a lot of good guys, and these guys are giving us a bad rap, and we're not going to let that happen. And I feel like we'd be so much further along the path than we are. And one more point I want to make, because I hear it all the time, is that this is a small part of the community, and it doesn't matter if it's small or not. But that's just untrue. This is you guys every Monday. It is the Chamber of Commerce crowd, frankly, that's going, where has the chief been? These are people that I interact with every day, that they don't come to the council meetings, but I get these questions all the time from a vast majority of citizens. And I just, at this point, I just don't know that, I've seen zero evidence that Chief Pinion can turn this thing around and move this forward. Unfortunately, I don't want to say it. I wish I could go. I disagree with you all because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things he's done over the last 16 months. I've got zero. And that's why I kind of blame this where I am. So.
I really didn't want to get up and say anything, but I can't see how you sit over there and take up for this man. It's pitiful. You just as guilty as he is. And the officer
that killed Steve, murdered Steve. Now, Katrina and her kids has been run away from their home. It's been over 16 months now. They scared to go home. And we getting calls that police and stuff is going around her house and stuff now. She's scared. Even me, yesterday, I come down Moulton Street. I wasn't gonna say anything, because I'm really not scared, you know. I'm 66, I done everything, you know. They can't scare me. So, they get, detectives was at the red light, and I was at the red light. And they was in this brand new Dodge. It's a cream gray looking car. So they get behind me in front of Family Dollar, and they follow me all the way 24 to McIntyre Lane where I live. And they came behind me there. And I went all the way to my neighborhood into York Place. We live in a subdivision. My daughter, Katrina, we live together now with the girls and my wife. And they follow me all the way to my home. And they stop at the corner and just sit there staring at me. They done ran her from her home. And this man is still their boss, supposed to be. They handcuffed her downtown at the 3rd Friday. They keep harassing us. And I just bagged up and I just sit there and looked at them as they watch me with Steve sign in the yard, Justice for Steve. Something is gonna have to be done. And if you're gonna be part of it, you're gonna be part of the problem too, you know. You just as guilty as the guy that killed Steve. You with this chief, he's done nothing but harass my family. Now he's bringing it to my home. And something needs to be done, because he'll have to take me out there if they come up with some mess at my home. They already done killed my son-in-law, their father, her husband. And we just sick and tired. I'm still sick and tired.
Thanks, Bill. Mike, Faruqi.
Okay, teammates, what should a legislative body do when it finds things concerning?
You look for opportunities to create different things to vote on.
Okay, it goes beyond just simply voting. It's
Now, the only way we can enact anything is with a vote.
you can create hearings. Yes?
Sure, but we can't enact anything without a vote.
Correct.
Yeah.
But part of your legislative duties is to investigate what's going on and what you find concerning, so you can help the public.
We can't do anything to help the public without voting on it.
Okay, so
We had to vote on the third-party review. Anything we do is a body, and it takes either a majority or supermajority.
okay, Jacob, you said, I don't know how I can do better than that. And I'm suggesting
Then what?
that was my question, because several people brought issues up here, and all you can do is basically refer to comments as a set opportunity for people to voice.
That's not what I was.
Then what were you?
I mean, you can ask people. I'm not trying to do anything personal, build my ego. But I have met for many, many, many hours with all kinds of people in this room. And if they want to come to you after the meeting and tell you that, and I've sat there till every question was asked, I answered every question. I've not once said no. Sometimes I wonder if I should have, but I haven't. In fact, I would say that's true of you as well. I've met with you and ridden around with you in your car and answered every question you've had every time you've asked me to do it, which is on at least 3 or 4 occasions.
What will you do when you find things in the report that are concerning to you?
If there are things we can change by vote, we will do that.
Can you change by vote whether or not the police chief is still the police chief?
Yes, it takes 4 votes.
Okay.
But let me clarify again, there's a long because it's a personnel matter, there is a process for that.
Mr. Pinion claims that because he took an oath that he should somehow be allowed to continue in his position. Quite the opposite is true, really. His oath is to uphold the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution itself is the product of America's founding fathers who were active protesters in their day. The Constitution includes provisions to protect free speech, peaceful assembly, protect the right to keep and bear arms, provisions to be free from unreasonable search and arrest, which you found concerning in that video, and provisions for a fair trial. At least half of our Bill of Rights were proven to have been violated by Pinion's army in the Green Report that you have access to. Until 1865, black protesters did not have a voice within our republic. The 14th Amendment in 1968 guaranteed equal protection under the law. It wasn't until 1870 that black Americans received the right to vote. It took another 50 years for women protesters to receive the right to vote in 1920. It is heroic to protest against injustice and cowardly to follow those who commit unjust acts against their fellow citizens. The International Association of Chiefs of Police Law Enforcement Oath says, "I will never betray my integrity, my character, or the public trust." Mr. Pinion has failed on each of these tests routinely since September 29th of 2023. It goes on to say, "I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions." Was Renshaw held accountable? Was Malachi held accountable? Were those officers whose body cam videos did not jive with the official reports held accountable?
I don't know.
Can our legislative liaison to that function provide that answer?
I looked at me when I asked it, so I have no idea.
Were they disciplined?
I don't want to interrupt you. I'm not going to say anything. It's obvious that...
I'm not here to do a soliloquy. I want responses.
Well,
so
the answer, okay. The answer is that's all handled by the mayor. He is the appointing authority, okay? So I don't know the answer to that particular item. Because sometimes the police chief and IA and all those others bring things to the mayor and he decides them. Not the city council, okay? That's why they don't know.
Okay, the oath continues, "I will always maintain the highest ethical standards and uphold the values of my community and agency I serve." The only part of that oath that Mr. Pinion has followed is the continued intransigence in defending his agency against repeated truthful claims of abuse, unlawful arrests, and excessive force and thievery. Now, manpower-wise, 22% reduction in force. Are we still providing the funds for that police department at the same rate of 100%? So $4.4 million could be saved out of the manpower to possibly get some additional officers, good officers, additional money going for the police chief to hire somebody who can do the job. Thank you.